I get surprised when I get positive feedback. Then I turn cynical. I'm like, do you actually like it? Do you actually mean it? Or you're just being nice?
What would we need to tell you? That's like a clue. They're like, no, I actually like this.
You have to sign an affidavit, Stephen.
Right. That's right. Instead of a non-disclosure, it's a full disclosure.
Yeah.
This is a full
Let's tell you
disclosure.
everything. Welcome to the Embracing Mystery podcast. Join us as we explore together ways that we can embrace creative and spiritual mystery in our lives and simultaneously find ourselves embraced in the mystery of compassionate, creative interconnection, held by what might be called the divine, or source, or consciousness, or even mystery itself. In the process, we seek to become more fully ourselves, find our home and places of belonging, and grow as creative, spiritual, and relational beings. Well, welcome to episode 4. Today we are going to be picking up essentially where we left off from last time. Last time we were talking about the creative process, how we experience source or sources in our own experience of the creative process. And today we are going to be talking about the next step, which is what do you do once you've actually made something? And more importantly than just like, okay, do you share it or not, is what's happening inside of you? How do you relate to that process and to other people as you have your finished piece and what to do with it? And so for today's episode, Kevin will be leading us in a practice and then Naz will be facilitating our conversation. So look forward to it. So go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Yeah, as Stephen mentioned, we're going to open with a practice. And what I thought I would do is a practice that is really trying to help us connect emotionally and psychologically with that whole process of when it comes time to decide whether to share something, what's going on inside of us. So in a few moments, I'll tap our bowl to get us started, and there'll be a period of silence. And what I'd like for us to do during that time of silence is imagine that we have something that we're ready to share or consider sharing. And that could be, for those who are creatives, it could be a song or a poem or a painting or whatever it may be. It could also be you've anticipated having people over to the house and you've thought of special recipes you want to present, and how now it's getting time to decide whether you're going to actually do that and follow through, or how you're feeling as you get ready and you're anticipating the arrival of the guests. It could be a work project. It could be any number of things. So I'm going to give us a moment after I tap the bowl to first kind of pick something that you may be in the middle of trying to decide whether to share. And then I'll give us a few moments just to pay attention to what's coming up inside you. Is there nervousness, anxiety, excitement, enthusiasm, a little bit of trepidation, fear of failure, whatever it may be. And even some of the motivations, what's causing you to want to present that, or potentially what might be holding you back from it. Just paying attention to those things. Whatever comes up, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And then I'll tap the bowl again when we're done and turn it back to Naz at that point. All right, so we'll take a few moments of silence. Okay, as we bring ourselves back, I will bring this to Naz.
Yes, I have the joy of facilitating today. So I thought I'd open up the conversation with this question for everyone. So as we create our work as artists, we may or may not want to share our creation with a larger group. If you do share, how do you approach sharing your work? And probably a follow-up question to that is, what are your motivations?
Mm-hmm. This is one of those days we're all just staring at each other. Usually somebody jumps right in.
No, I can go ahead. I was just trying to be, just wait for the field to settle. But, well, I can kind of respond to that question with another question and offer some context for that. my initial sort of question response is there a difference between pure and impure motivations when it comes to sharing things? Especially when it comes to, largely speaking, creative expression.
Yeah.
And then how do you discern between the two? And then, some context for that. This conversation is pretty pertinent to me because in the last couple of months, I went from thinking about pursuing a PhD dissertation to turning that PhD dissertation idea into a book idea, and then sort of feeling like, all right, well, not only do I not want to do the book, but I also don't want to do like my blog, and I sort of recognize that my philosophical work was something that meant more to me as a personal investigation, as opposed to something that I wanted to necessarily, or felt like I had the need to kind of broadcast. Whereas my musician side is still very much external in that way. So yeah, just to kind of open up that question space for you guys.
Yeah. Can I jump in on that follow-up question, and then maybe it'll segue to answering yours? And the way you phrased the pure and impure motives question, and are there pure and impure motives, I think is fascinating for me personally, and because I've gotten away from using the pure or impure motive thing, but I do notice, I pay attention to the mixture of motivations that I have, and I think in my case some are more helpful or less helpful than others. And one of the ones I have, which goes way back to childhood, early childhood, is wanting to be seen and noticed and have attention and approval and affirmation and all of that. And there's actually nothing wrong with that. I used to think that's a what you called a not pure motivation. I don't think there's actually anything wrong with it, like something I should say, oh gosh, sorry, I feel that way. But it is a motivation that will get in the way of actually not so much the presentation of something creative, but the creative process itself.
Like because if it gets baked in there as you're making
exactly.
Something.
If I start thinking, oh, how will, this will make people whatever respond this way or that way, it can really cloud then my actual creative process of the thing itself in a way. So that ties into your question a bit. And I don't know if that gets at some of your stuff. And I really do resonate with because I did a PhD, and once I had done like all the research and I was ready to write the dissertation, I was done. I don't care. I didn't do this to write the dissertation. I don't really care. I didn't do it for the degree. I was just anyway, that's a whole other story. So I really resonate with that. But yeah, I think where I've been lately, as I've brought several things to the public, as it were, in my own small little world, some talks I've done, some music I've done, etc. Where I've been with that is I've really tried to pay attention lately before releasing something to, okay, let's be aware of the mixed motivations. Let's look at each thread. Let's be aware of them. Let's release it. And now let's just let this go as an offering, whatever happens. So that's kind of where I've been. But yeah, so I really appreciate that progression you led us on of, so I wanted this and then I don't, and I don't, and I don't, and I don't. And now I'm just, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And just to maybe just briefly piggyback on what you were saying, the way you even just articulated it then, the practice of sort of like stripping back the layers or uncovering things and kind of maybe ruthlessly investigating your motivations, your desires is also like a way of clarifying creative process of your life, in addition to the creative process of the thing that you're working on. It's like, well, why am I doing this? That question affects the thing that you are making and how you release it and what it is that you're, kind of constructing overall. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'm wondering also for you, Raymond, was that like a process of stripping things back to realize that, or did that feel freeing in the process of being like, you know what, actually, I don't even need to share this. Was that like holding some part, like, because that could be a very freeing thing. Like, actually, I don't have to deal with that. Or it could feel like a dying to part of yourself.
I mean, I guess functionally it's both, but emotionally it was the former, in the sense of like, it definitely felt like a letting go and a freedom. That
Which is usually a good sign.
Yeah, and I think paying attention, again, going back to what Kevin, when you're saying, it's like sort of paying attention to how that sat in my gut was a big part of that.
Yeah.
Or like, it's very much sort of tied to my own process of like disentangling from being a golden boy, and like I don't, again, philosophy or music or whatever. It's like I didn't get into it because I wanted to be thought of as a certain kind of person to other people. I got into it because I was curious and I liked making stuff and listening to things. Yeah. And that all kind of like got in the way and muddied the water, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it took until basically recently to, again, decouple those things. Yeah.
It's interesting. That's good. What I'm noticing is when I compare what you're saying, which makes a lot of sense with my own more recently, like, okay, now I'm starting to share things. One of the litmus tests for me is like, well, why? Because my tendency would be the opposite, would be to hold something back. I'd be like, I don't care. I don't need it. I didn't make this for someone else. Especially a lot of my art is internal processing of something in my own world or making sense of something emotionally, which would be different than, I guess, if I was something I would write, maybe where because it depends on what that is. But my own thing is like, I'll notice like, oh, I'm holding back because I want to play it safe, or I'm trying to, instead of looking for affection, I'm avoiding any critique.
Yeah.
And particularly, it feels different for me if it's people I know, like in this room. Like I don't feel much inhibition at all around sharing stuff.
Right,
but especially if I'm like social media, I treat differently. I'm like, okay, I have people from all sorts of different seasons of life in this who haven't tracked with who I am or how I think at this point, and might assume a lot of things. And so it slows me down, and I notice that of, okay, is this just personal and I want to keep it to myself because it's personal, and maybe that's an okay answer for some of my things, but then for others, it's actually a motivation of like, okay, it's exposure therapy. Just put it out there. Learn to care less in the process. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I just want to jump in because I do relate to that. I feel like with sharing my work, I've gone through so many phases where pre-social media, I feel like it was different. I kept my work to myself because it was harder to share. The only people I would share it with would probably be my close friends because they were the most accessible. But then social media does make it easier to share work. And also it kind of strangely adds like a relational aspect.
It can.
Yeah.
Like parasocially.
Yeah. Which I think at first was kind of scary, but then I don't know. Yeah, I guess it does give like validation, or like, yeah, people are seeing this. It's not just like gathering dust on my desk, right?
Yeah.
But it's also easier to share on social media when you're a nobody.
Yeah.
But once you start to, I don't know, I feel like now I'm like, other people are noticing and more people are following, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting more self-conscious.
Okay.
I don't know if I want, or maybe I should be more careful about sharing things now.
But maybe they followed you because you weren't, right? Like that was enriching their life.
Right.
I feel like it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like in terms of like the attention that comes, like it's you're like, okay, I'm validated, but at the same time, you have now sort of absorbed either this pressure or this maybe sense of responsibility to kind of be a certain thing to people. Yeah. Yeah. I guess maybe my question would be, what would what's the worst case scenario? Like what would happen if everyone abandoned you?
It'd be awful. It'd be the end of the world. I don't know.
I feel bad about it for a second, but then I think I'd be like, oh, I'm free again.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, actually. Yeah. Yeah. But that whole putting thing that, and I realize the focus of our conversation right now isn't social media per se, except as it relates to how we're how we feel and are approaching releasing something, right? If that's one of the avenues that we use. But it'd be a great topic someday, probably the whole social media world. But it does, I think one of the things that social media does for artists is it creates feedback, right? Or it invites feedback. It gives the opportunity for feedback, which for me, when I was releasing things over the last couple of years that are just kind of more like this, just a song, right? This is my latest song, etc., or a poem or something, was one thing. Lately, I've intentionally, pretty much since January, been really trying to release a lot more like activist-oriented, politically, socially directed songs, and not just music, but things I've posted in terms of short talks and that kind of thing. And I'm very aware, partly, Stephen, similar to you, I've got people who follow me from older soil core samples of my life, right? Who still have me locked in at that level.
That actually brings me to my next question.
So I'm worried about their responses, right?
Like, that fits into the next question I have for everyone.
Beautiful segue. Yes, good. Yeah.
So what thoughts or feelings do you have when other people receive your work, whether that is positive or negative responses?
And I'll leave my comment out there for others, and then I'll come back to that. But yeah.
It surprised me seeing people respond positively that I didn't know if they would like what I do or how I'm presenting myself, at least. You can't explain yourself fully in a reel or in something of where you're at in life now. So that's actually been strangely encouraging. But then I noticed myself getting into like, okay, now I'm creating with things in mind to share. And that actually has taken some of the freedom of creativity out of it for me. If everything, if it has to be productive, like even just being part of Table Collective, like, okay, well, I should probably be sharing some of the things I make. And then that takes some of the just pure freedom of there's no end goal for it. It's just being creative as a practice, as a creative / spiritual practice. Like my spiritual director was asking me about it. She's like, well, how do you relate to your creativity now? I was like, well, it feels kind of workish. And it's because I know like, oh, I probably should be sharing things. And even if I'm getting good results, like it created a feedback loop that I'm like, oh, well, I think I just need a couple hours a week. That's just for me.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting realization, but it wasn't from negative feedback, actually.
Yeah. Well, as your coworker in Table Collective, I affirm this. You should, yes, I want you free. So, yeah.
I get surprised when I get positive feedback. Then I turn cynical. I'm like, do you actually like it? Do you actually mean it? Or you're just being nice?
What would we need to tell you? Just that's like a clue. They're like, no, I actually like this.
You have to sign an affidavit, Stephen.
Right. That's right. Instead of a non-disclosure, it's a full disclosure. Yeah. This is a full disclosure.
Everything I like about it. So that way, you know, I'm not that. That's a lot of work to go through if you didn't.
Then you get it notarized.
Yeah.
Like, you need a third party to confirm this.
Well, actually, in terms of like getting third party confirmation, I think for me, and this is just a personal thing. I'm actively less and less inclined to pay attention to whether or not I'm received positively or negatively. If it's positive feedback, it's great. If it's negative feedback, I mean, I can take what feels constructive and leave the rest aside. Because again, I think for me, my motivations. Okay, I will bracket all of this, and maybe this is also a pertinent question given what we're talking about. I have a day job, right? So, and I think for my own creative practice and what gives my life meaning, that's crucially important because I don't have to worry about how I'm received. I don't have to worry about commodifying the work that I do, whether internally or externally. And that makes a big difference because I think a big driver of the vulnerability and the ego confusion and all of that can kind of muddy up the waters creatively is tied to the fact that we are essentially in a marketplace hawking our wares. And you just need to do a certain amount of that in order to even get people to buy one of your, woven baskets or whatever. And I don't have to do that. And then I prefer it that way because I feel like that keeps the direct line to whatever it is I'm doing intact, which is the whole point anyway. So I just acknowledging that, yes, I don't necessarily care about feedback, but like I can also literally and figuratively afford that.
Right.
And a lot of people, especially artists or any kind of creative people, just simply can't in this, specific
Well stated.
system.
Yeah.
I relate to that. I'm also trying, because I do have a day job. And it's like, I don't have to worry about, like, I don't have to sell my art for my life. So I do kind of have a little bit of detachment, but I think I'm trying to practice more of it where it's like, I just want to create because it feels good.
Yeah.
And I do want to share it on social media because it looks good right now. And I'll probably take it down later.
Yeah.
Well, and there is a component like, okay, at least with the people who you're actually friends with and know, like,
Right.
It's nice to have them be able to actually experience what you made. It's good.
Yeah. So I part of this coming back to that question of, how do you feel as you're getting ready to present something? And then the most recent follow-up question about the responses that we might get, et cetera. So where, and I talked about how going back to childhood, wanting affirmation and all that kind of stuff, and very aware that a lot of the stuff I've been putting out lately is likely to land in a world in which, our country right now is very divided about a lot of the things that I'm talking about and singing about and sharing about. And I'm trying to get it out there because I want to say some things. And I know there's going to be pushback, and there have been some really ugly comments. And so now I'm like, okay, what's this going to generate? What's this, and I don't like it. There's part of me that's kind of like, I don't know them from whatever. They don't even use their real name, but I do struggle with it. And I'm just trying to be aware that that's there and then say, doesn't matter. I'm going to put it out there anyway. And I can't imagine what it's like for people who have a major public presence and get all sorts of hate messages, and how they probably have people reading that for them. But anyway, I'd love to pay somebody to read all my negative stuff, but yeah. And maybe pay somebody to say positive things. That happens, right?
I think that's called bot farming.
Yes, I know. And I'm kidding. Okay. When anybody listening to this who doesn't know me, I'm kidding, but yes.
Yeah, I don't think I've had super negative feedback or responses yet, or even mildly negative things yet, which I feel like maybe I don't know, it's probably not a bad experience to have. It could be humbling.
Or like you said, freeing. In
Yeah.
some ways.
Right.
Yeah. Like I would want to have that kind of relationship with it of well, I just make what I make, and is it even not everything you make feels like, I made it, but it also reflects something more than just yourself sometimes too, where you're like, I don't know, I'm just making what comes through me.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, I guess that's your problem. I wish that I say that, but I wish I could feel that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm probably too sensitive for that at this point.
Well, I guess maybe that's one question that's arising for me in response to that is okay, given, it's given some sort of relationship between vulnerability / sensitivity, and vulnerability is literally the ability to be wounded, and to open yourself up.
Yep.
The relationship between vulnerability, sensitivity, and creativity. What are strategies or tactics or processes that, can enable a better relationship with either exposure or criticism, that sort of thing. Because it's if that pain or that suffering is essentially inevitable and unavoidable by putting yourself out there, how do you deal with that?
Well stated. Yeah. Good question.
I'm thinking in a couple different directions. One is in terms of deciding what's the stuff that you want to share and why, and paying attention to that. There might be just some things that are like, you know what, this isn't for everyone, and that's okay. Maybe for a group of people in a room that I know is different than online. Maybe for family or just for one friend or whatever. That's okay too. I think letting that be okay comes as a first thing for me, I think. But I think for myself, it's like I am just practicing getting into that space and be like, you know what, it's really okay.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's just a practice in and of itself of not taking yourself too seriously by putting things out there and getting that response, whether it's good or bad, but facing that vulnerability.
Just to jump in there, I think that not taking yourself too seriously is genuinely like a fundamental part.
Absolutely. Yes.
Like even like as like a life principle.
Exactly. Just
Yeah.
I totally agree. I don't practice it, but I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Or I think about like, how do you do it in a way that's not grasping at like reifying a sense of self of like, this is me and I'm putting this image in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or the more you share, the less you hold on to a grasp at here's my identity and it's precious to me.
Put a disclaimer on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, or I think just in terms of, I mean, you could take any particular spiritual tradition, but anything that's saying like, well, let go of your ego about this, just kind of flow in the creative flow, let it, don't hold it into yourself.
Yeah.
Share it with other people, what you're making with other people, but not worrying about the outcome of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all probably seen examples of people for whom their false self has become this persona of being authentic and raw. Right. Like I'm just being
really
so honest.
hard.
I'm just being so honest. And it's just, blah, blah, blah. And but it's like their persona instead of actually what they really are. And you can kind of just feel it when it happens, I guess. And anyway, I don't have anybody individually in mind right now. So no, I don't. I really don't.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be raw and authentic. I'm just kidding.
Yes, Kevin Caldwell, live and unfiltered.
Yeah.
Your use of the word persona is also interesting to me because it's like, I mean, Jung talks about how the persona is just, it's baked into who we are anytime we have a social interaction with anyone. Like you have to put on some sort of mask, and it comes unconsciously in part, just to be able to communicate things, right? And so I feel like for me, what a lack of self-seriousness or like a reduced sense of self-seriousness implies is like turning that process of inevitably having a persona into a kind of like carnival where it's like, everyone's wearing masks. There's a way in which that you can kind of like have a negative connotation on that, which is like, oh my God, you're like not being real, bro.
Yeah.
But instead, if you can kind of like play with that and like, make it sort of like a drag performance or like a masquerade. And it's like, we all got these silly masks. We can exchange them. We can wear new ones. We can wear different ones and like have that be part of the process. I feel like it's healthy.
Yeah.
Or in Jungian terms, how well integrated is your shadow?
Right.
Like, are you able to own pieces of that? And over time, like people will see like, you have a persona, but there's ways that you're expressing different parts of your whole self. Over time, you get a better picture than just one mask.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Actually makes me think like what's good art and what's bad art, and are you brave enough to put out your bad art? So I think there's like, I don't know.
Perfectionism question there.
Yeah, but I feel like even bad art has kernels of truth in it.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting question about our own art, right? Like there's a song I wrote and I shared it with some people. And I felt like it wasn't really well done and I would want to redo it later, but it was kind of tied to the moment and I had shared it. And I went back to listen to it a couple of months later and I thought, that's not as bad as I thought it was. I mean, bad, whatever that means, right? Like that actually hangs together a lot better than I was thinking. So sometimes I'm not ready for my own stuff, maybe. And so I don't know if I'm my own best critic anyway. So just getting it out there, and it ties into the earlier conversation we had about just the natural flow. And if creativity is natural and it's just happening anyway, then just trust that that's happening, even in something you think didn't turn out very well. Just, well, there it is. And maybe 2 years from now, I'll be more mature and I can appreciate it more. Like maybe the fault is my current me, not the art. I don't
Depends
know.
on what makes it bad.
Right, exactly. I get that,
like,
because it could be worse later.
Just in terms of pure craft, like there's some things that I'll make where like, was this meant as like a sketchbook drawing kind of thing? Or am I trying to make a finished piece?
Yeah,
here?
absolutely.
It's definitely just not done.
Right. Because I have had the reverse experience of, 2 years later going back to a piece I thought was amazing and thinking, well, that was crap.
Well, or you can frame it positively. I've really improved.
Right.
I'm a lot more capable now.
That's a good question. But I also think bad art, you need to really engage your imagination with it. I don't know. I think.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking of like, so I don't have a lot of money, so I make like a low budget stuff, but it's like, okay, but I still made it. But are you creative enough to engage with it?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's there's a way in which that can kind of like invite the person who's receiving it to like bring in more of their own creative capacities to like fill in the gaps, so to speak.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's how I make myself feel better.
I mean, I think there's something there, though, that could even be an approach to creativity and presentation. I had never thought about that before, Raymond. Like intentionally leaving this would be very Lao Tzu, very Taoist, like leave something with a lot of space in it unfinished and let everybody else be part of filling in the gaps, bringing their own discernment to it would be, I don't know what that'd look like. Anyway, I like that idea.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. And I guess it just sort of brings to mind this maybe another sort of tension is that we're revolving around, which is like, that's a kind of art process that is fundamentally participatory, right? Like you need the other to kind of like bring in their own material to fill out the space in whichever way they're going to. But is all, creativity or art or whatever we're working on, like, is it necessarily shared? Like, can it remain, gathering dust in your desk and still be meaningful in some way? Because I think if it's like, if the answer is somewhere in between, I think that's why like the question of discernment even arises. If that makes sense.
I like that. Yeah.
It's like if there is a choice between the two and it can be one of many things, like, then that's an interesting question. But if it's like, oh no, it always needs to be shared, or it always needs to be kind of kept, personal, or or else it becomes impure in some way, then like, I don't know. I feel like that can kind of collapse the artistic process into a rigid binary.
Yeah, that's a good thing to think about. Interesting question. Also, I think to maybe conclude on.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good conversation today.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us for today's episode. As always, we would love to hear your comments, as we'll have a conversation here afterwards that will help to shape our next episode, but the same with your comments. So we'd love to hear ways you're interacting also. And if this kind of exploration of your own inner world as you share things is something you want to explore further, the Ancient Wells course that we have is actually a really good way to do that. We'll be starting another cohort this fall. But yeah, we'd love to hear either way how you're processing and how you relate to your own artwork and sharing that with others. We would love to have you share it with us, or not if that doesn't feel comfortable. So yeah, again, see you next time. Take care.